Other bands later, I toured with Chicago because they were also managed by Irving, and I was on their plane. And then I met Mick Jones, who started Foreigner, when I was still in Fort Lauderdale. He was in the opening act, which was Spooky Tooth. I can't remember who the middle act was, but I was really there to shoot Humble Pie with Steve Marriott. In between the middle act, I just start talking to Mick. He was just like a fill-in guy. He wasn't an original member of Spooky Tooth. And he had a beeper and I had a beeper. And I told him later that year, in a few months, I was moving to Atlanta. It seemed like 2 years later, I get a beep. And I was on the way to Alex Cooley's. And it was a beep from a New York number. So I pulled over, put a dime in the phone back then. And he said, hey, do you remember me? I said, yeah, I remember you. He says, well, I'm playing with Leslie West Band at Alex Cooley's. Or maybe it might have been the Agora. I can't remember. And so I said, well,
You're on your way there
I'm
anyway.
on the way now anyway. It wasn't Mountain. It was the Leslie West Band.
Okay.
And he was playing second guitar to Leslie.
It was meant to be.
Yeah. And after it was over, we just stood out in front looking at the Fox. I swear on my life, he said, man, I just got signed to Atlantic Records. I put together the greatest group of musicians I've ever played with. I don't remember if he said the name of the band was Foreigner. Probably a year later, that record came out. It shot to the top. Alex Cooley had them at the Omni. They went to Peaches to put their hand in the cement. And their tour manager said, Mick wants to know if you'll go on tour with us. And I said, yeah, absolutely. When? Well, we're leaving tomorrow after the show. But at the time, they were booked in a bunch of smaller venues because nobody thought the record was going to do that good. We were in vans and we were in station wagons. And the first stop was Chattanooga. We were in a gymnasium. But it was still great. We ended up at a legendary concert hall called the Warehouse in New Orleans, where many great bands had played. It's not there anymore. And that's where I ended. I see Mick every once in a while. We're both older. We remind each other of it and we remember.
Gosh.
But the thing about Foreigner was they never ate during or before the show, and they always had a private room at the greatest restaurants. And when we were in New Orleans, we went somewhere out on Lake Pontchartrain and just had the greatest meal. It was about 25 people. And so every night after the show, we would do that. The Eagles, they had a 3E party. It stood for Third Encore, and the roadies would go out during the show, and to be sexist, they would find the best-looking women in the house, and they would give it to them, and they would tell them, when they were in Atlanta, they stayed at the Hilton downtown. They'd say, you come to the lobby, you call this room. Do not bring your husband. Do not bring your boyfriend. You would not believe how many women that went to the show with a husband or boyfriend would show up, and then they'd go upstairs, and the band would be up there, and many women would just latch on, and of course the photographer never got lucky, so we would
you
walk.
just took pictures of it all.
But the thing about it, we would every night was like a learning course with Irving, Larry, Andy Slater, and I. We'd walk around after the 3E party was over. But I remember one funny story. I think his name's Tommy Nixon. He's still Don Henley's right-hand guy. We're up at the 3E party, and everybody was gone, and it was just about 10 of us left, and we were hungry. They'd only stay in hotels that had 24-hour service. This is 1979 money. I need $250 worth of breakfast up here, and I need it in 15 minutes. And the lady kept saying, what do you want? I don't care what you put on there, but the clock's running, and you're getting a $100 tip if you can get it up here in 15 minutes. He wasn't being mean. He was being funny. Finally, she stopped asking what you want, and then all of a sudden, like back then, you would get like 3 carts. Would be $250. Now you probably get like 3 strips of bacon in a hotel. I toured with those bands, Rossett and Collins, Skinner in 85 when they got back together. I think it was 85. They put out a double live album. Photos of Mine were in there, and that was the beginning of them coming back. Somewhere around the mid-'80s, I was asked to be the Grammy photographer. It came out of nowhere. I was blown away. I turned it down the first year because I didn't think I was ready for something like that. But I just thought about it for a year and didn't think they would ever call me back, and they did. And an old friend of mine, Mike Green, was the CEO, and Rob Sen, who used to be with Atlantic Records and gave me my first paid job in Atlanta for Genesis at the Fox, was his number 2 guy. So for about 6 years, I was the only person shooting the Grammy show. If I blew the film, there would be no archives. Fortunately, I didn't. But then we went digital in, 99 maybe, and I was part of a group, and I was probably there till around 2008, 9, or 10. It was just enough. I mean, I'd done it more than any other photographer in the history of the Grammys. So I finished that.
And all that, when you do this, when you get paid, All of that is their property?
Some things I own. Everything you've seen, everything on my website, I own 100% of the copyright. When I went to work full-time staff for Getty, which is the largest syndicator in the world, and I spent the last maybe 15 years before I retired, mostly in Nashville, and I lucked out, and again, right place, right time. The town exploded with country music. Not maybe the country music you and I grew up with, like Willie Nelson,
Right, but
Waylon, but the
Nashville is
bro
the
country and
place.
all that.
Yeah.
But I was there. Getty just said, you stay here, get a hotel room, make sure no other syndicator steals your thunder. But I mean, I just knew so many people by then, from the CAA agents, William Morris agents. They got me with the bands. I knew all the publicists. I was working every day, and it was a blast for a long time. I saw sometimes 3 different acts in 5 different clubs. I go to 5 different clubs a night. The first 3 would be I had to shoot for Getty, and the next 2, maybe Marty Stewart was playing
He's amazing.
by himself at a club, and I would just go. That's what I wanted to see. Or Vince Gill.
Oh, it's kind of like your days back in the 70s.
Yeah, Vince Gill at the Bluebird.
Yeah.
You know, you just want to see Vince Gill in a little place. And Emmy Lou. I mean, these were all my favorites. Roseanne Cash. I'd go anywhere to see her. So that ended around 2017, 2018. I retired, and I've whittled it down. I do songwriter festivals thanks to my friend Russell Carter and Kathy Lyons at Russell Carter Management. They just slap an all-access laminate on me, and I go down to 30A every year. I've probably done that now 6 years, minus the COVID year. There's one in Opelika, Alabama, coming up the end of this month, which you should check out. It's 3 great days of songwriters, and it's inexpensive. It's things I like because you don't buy a ticket to each event. You buy one ticket, you pick where you want to go, to whatever club, whatever stage, and you go. And on Saturday, which is the long day, it starts at like 10, 11 in the morning, and it goes to like 1 a.m.
Wow.
And you can see a lot of good, great music, songwriters. There's no dancers in spandex or anything like that, just songwriters.
Yep.
And great songwriters. People have written hit songs for people that you listen to on this station,
Yep.
but maybe never knew it was written by somebody
Right,
else.
right.
So I enjoy doing that. I'll be down there again this time. And the website's up. There's photos on there. They're archival. They're signed.
How hard was it to go back through all your stuff to... It must have...
I had like a foot surgery thing happen, and I had to stay out of work for 6.5 months when I was with Getty. And I said, well, this is the time to start doing it. And I bought a scanner and started going through negatives. And I've got well over 100,000, maybe 100,000 rolls of film up in my archives where I keep them.
That's rolls of film, which means how many pictures on each one?
Well, usually it was 36 when I was shooting. And, you know, you not only just go to like the Rolling Stones, which I shot so many times, you got to go through each negative and figure out which ones you want to scan, because scanning is tedious, and then photoshopping the scans. And the weirdest thing was when I was into doing that. Once I retired, I still do that. I still scan. I just like look back, and it's like Warren Zevon said something before he died on David Letterman about enjoy every sandwich or something.
I saw that
And
hour
it's
that
like,
he was on.
I just cannot believe how fast 50 years went. And I look at some of these pictures. I mean, I can remember everything about that day, but it doesn't seem. And then I look at the date, 1978 or 1982, and I go, man, I just can't believe it's been that long.
If you were, God forbid, living in LA when those fires were happening, and you had, let's just say, your stuff wasn't all on digital. Let's just say that, Rick, you had to rescue photographs out of your house and take them with you. What would be your top 5 photos that you've taken that you would rescue?
Well, I mean, if I don't hang any of my stuff in the house.
What makes you just...
I think for me right now, the Carter stuff is very emotionally attached to it. In there, of course, is the Allmans. In there is Michael Jackson, the Reagans. I mean, those are the most... I say they're the most exclusive thing that I shot, but then again, I was on the Eagles plane and I was shooting. You know, after the 3rd day, I kind of could feel out how the guys on there wouldn't be disturbed if I was... And my job was to do that, but not to do it like a paparazzi. The Eagles stuff would be important. Most likely, I would have just run out the house and worried about me and my dog. I'm not
Yes,
married.
but that's why I'm saying,
and
let's
not
say there
worried
wasn't
about
anything.
the photos.
And then what are there a couple of images that just stand out to you that you go, wow, I cannot believe I got that photograph?
Well, the 78 Bruce Springsteen show at the Fox was pretty amazing, both nights. The Carter stuff with Greg Allman in it, pretty amazing. These days, you can't get close to a president because they're so protected.
That's right.
And even if he was alive today and I was at the Carter Center, he would have more protection, but I would have been cleared. But back then, I mean, I could just walk up to him and talk. You know, we could just talk. My thing was when people would come to the Carter Center to thank him for something, give him a donate, like once the people who do drywall, but there's a brand name and it's not drywall, it's the number 2 competitor, were coming to donate at the time $1 million worth of that stuff a year and deliver it wherever he needed it
For
his
Habitat?
builds. All they wanted out of the deal was for him to come to where they were from, and I think they were in the middle of the country somewhere, and just talk to the employees that work in the plant. I remember him saying, if somebody's going to give me $1 million worth of drywall to build homes for people that need homes, I'll go anywhere they want me to go and talk to the people in the plant. We would always do these, a lot of these presentations weren't public, they weren't press conferences, they would come to his office, and his office is amazing. There's a wooden rocking chair that he made by himself, and he would sit in it. And not being that religious myself, he of course, everyone knows was. And he would have the Bible in different. I mean, I noticed it was never in the same place, which told me
That he was reading.
There was no BS. He was reading it, and it would be upside down on a different page. And sometimes it would be on his desk, and across the room. Sometimes it would be next to the chair on the table, with his mother's painted portrait right there, Miss Lillian's painted portrait right there. And there was a window that looked out on the lake, but also you could see downtown Atlanta. It's built on a hill. They say it's the hill that Sherman watched when he burned, or whoever burned down Atlanta. I'm not big on history. That's where he watched the city burn, but that's where the Carter Center is. The Carter stuff is always important to me. I had a lot of friends, Alex, Peter, Charlie Brusco, just so many people that just like open doors. This could not be done today. I mean, I try to tell photographers that I see huffing it in the pit. When I see some photographers, and there's some really good younger ones than me, for sure, I just try to tell them it's a different world. I mean, the record companies aren't here anymore. The radio stations don't have the budgets that they had when I was working. There's the PR, the whole PR thing's different. And if you're going to do stills, you need to be doing video, because that's probably a better way to make a living. You got to stick with a band that you think's going to make it and hope they're loyal enough that if they do make it, they don't dump you and get somebody with a big name out of New York or LA or Chicago or even Nashville. I was in it at the right time. I wouldn't trade anything for anything. After all those years, it's just great looking back and seeing the photos I took and finding old friends. And like we said, we've known each other forever. And I still see you out at a concert here and there.
I know, I love it.
That's that I took from it all, you know. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
And when you see Rick's website, you're going to understand, and you see through his eyes, there, you know, how, you know, here we were telling stories. You should be writing a book, because really you have a whole different view than anybody else has on some of these stories.
Well,
right? You're allowed into but I mean, I have some people tell me that all the time, and I'm like, yeah, there are things, but with you, you're there to record something, history in the making, really, in all these situations. You have this access that's incredible, and so what you want to do is share what you get to see with all of us, and you do it so well, Rick. You're just.
I appreciate it. I just lucked into a career. I thought when you got 30 years old, no rock band would ever give you the time of day, because rock bands were teenagers when we were growing up. I found out that rock music is still going strong.
Isn't it the best?
All these years later, and the bands that still can do it at age 70 can still sell out arenas. And, you know, I want to see all them again one more time before I retire from just everything.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Anyway, thank you very much for taking the time with me.
The website again is rickdiamondphoto.com. So any of these are purchasable. You might just want to look, just to look.
Yeah, just look. They're higher end photos because they're all archival prints.
Okay.
I don't sell 8x10s bands for $10 anymore.
Right.
If there's something, there's a way to contact me there. If there's somebody who says, "Hey, did you shoot Joe Blow or something at
Glenn
the Fox?"
Campbell's last show at Chastain? with
Yeah,
his
if
family?
you shot any of that stuff, I can probably say yes or no. I can tell you the date, and then it requires scanning. So after that, it's a little more difficult. But I shot the Atlanta scene for sure from like 1974 through, and
Till now.
that includes some REM stuff and ARS, lots of ARF stuff.
Love it. I just wore my ARS T-shirt yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of. For some reason, those bands, Collective Soul, been doing shots for Styx since the 70s.
That's
when
just
they used to play for another radio station, Toy for Tots, every year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just been a great career, and now if you're interested in buying something to hang on the wall, it's there. Thank you very much, Katie.